Warning: this documentary is based on a real case. All information has been drawn from verified investigations, official court records, law enforcement documents, and accredited news sources. Viewer discretion is advised. 8 children. That's not a statistic. That's not a headline. That's 8 sets of tiny shoes by the door. 8 birthday cakes that will never be baked again. 8 kids who were outside playing, laughing, running, being kids, just hours before someone they loved and trusted took everything from them.
It began in Shreveport. That is where the shooting happened and where everyone was killed. There were 8 children, ages about 1 to 14 years old, that were shot and killed around 6 a.m. this morning.
The youngest was 3 years old. The oldest was 11. And the man who killed them, killed all 8 of them, was their father.
Right now, police say 8 children were shot and killed in a mass shooting there.
Tonight, we are breaking down one of the most devastating acts of domestic violence in modern American history. What happened in Shreveport, Louisiana on the morning of April 19th, 2025, shook this country to its core.
Standing in this place again. There are 8 children that are deceased. I can't be strong for you. I think about the mother and what this family has lost. I think about this community and what this community has lost. And I don't have the words to give you, and I'm sorry.
And I think it's important, deeply, painfully important, that we sit with this story, that we say these children's names, that we understand not just what happened, but how it happened, and what it means for all of us. Stay with me. This is going to be a difficult one. Shreveport, Louisiana, a city of about 180,000 people sitting on the western edge of the state, right along the Red River. It's a city that carries the deep cultural roots of the American South: music, food, faith, and tight-knit communities where neighbors know each other's names, where kids play freely in the streets, and where front porches are gathering places on warm southern evenings. The south side of downtown Shreveport, where this story unfolds, is one of those communities. Streets where families have lived for generations, where parents let their kids run outside until the streetlights come on. April 18th, 2025, was an evening like any other in that neighborhood. Children were outside playing. Adults were on their porches. One neighbor, who lives directly across the street from one of the homes involved, told reporters that he had been outside that very evening. He saw the children playing in the yard. He waved at the man on the porch. He had no idea that just hours later, he would wake up to the sound of police sirens and the sight of crime scene tape stretching across the street. What happened in the early morning hours of April 19th, somewhere between the quiet of midnight and the first light of dawn, was not a random act of violence. This was not a stranger. This was not someone who broke into the home. This was a man who knew every single child in those homes by name, who had held them, raised them, watched them grow, and he executed them. Here is what we know about the sequence of events based on the official account from Shreveport Police Department. In the early hours of Sunday, April 19th, 31-year-old Shamar Elkins began what authorities are calling an execution-style attack across 2 separate homes, both located in a residential neighborhood south of downtown Shreveport, and both just a short distance apart from each other. He began by shooting a woman at the first location. Details about the exact nature of their relationship are still being confirmed, but authorities have indicated she is believed to be one of 2 women, a wife and a girlfriend, who were both targeted that night. Both women were shot. Both were seriously wounded. As of the time of initial reporting, both women were receiving medical treatment and are believed to have survived their injuries. But Elkins did not stop there. He then made his way to a second home, just blocks away, where 8 children were present. And that is where the unthinkable happened. On camera, police say Elkins opened fire on the children inside that home. All 8 of them were shot. All 8 of them died. Amid the chaos, amid what must have been absolute terror, One child managed to survive. A 13-year-old boy, who was not among the 8 victims, made a desperate decision. He jumped from the roof of the home to escape. Let that sink in for a moment. A 13-year-old child, likely terrified beyond anything we can imagine, chose to leap from a roof rather than face what was happening inside that house. That child is alive today because of that decision. That child is a survivor. After the shootings, Elkins fled the scene. He carjacked a vehicle at gunpoint, forcing the driver out before speeding away. Shreveport police initiated a pursuit. The chase ended when officers exchanged gunfire with Elkins. He was killed at the scene during that confrontation. Shamar Elkins was 31 years old. He never faced a courtroom. He never had to look at a judge or a jury. He died less than an hour after carrying out one of the worst mass killings of children in Louisiana history. I want to stop here. Before we go any further into the details, the investigation, the motive, I want to stop and do the most important thing we can do right now. We are going to say their names, because these 8 children were not just victims in a news report. They were real people. They had personalities. They had favorite foods and favorite cartoons. They had friends and teachers and grandparents who loved them. They had futures, birthdays and graduations and first days of school and dreams. That will now never happen. Their names deserve to be spoken clearly and remembered. Jayla Elkins. 3 years old. She had barely started discovering the world. 3 is the age of wonder, of asking why about everything, of learning to run without falling, of laughing at things that don't make sense yet. Jayla was 3. Shayla Elkins. 5 years old. 5 is the age of kindergarten, of making your first best friend, of losing your first tooth, of starting to understand that the world is big and full of possibility. Shayla was 5. Braylon Snow, 5 years old. Braylon was also 5. 2 5-year-olds gone on the same night. In the same place. By the same hand, Kayla Pugh, 6 years old. 6 years old means first grade. It means starting to read real books. It means figuring out who you are and what you love. Kayla was 6. Kadarian Snow, 6 years old. Also 6. Braylon's sibling, 2 of the Snow children among the 8 lost that night. Kadarian was 6. Layla Pugh, 7 years old. 7 is second grade. It's soccer practice and sleepovers and starting to have real opinions about things. Layla was 7. Marcaden Pugh, 10 years old. At 10, you're starting to grow up. You're aware of the world in a new way. You have your own music, your own jokes, your own crew of friends. Marcaden was 10 years old. And Soraya Snow, 11 years old. 11 is almost a teenager. 11 is middle school on the horizon. It's starting to figure out who you're going to be. Soraya was 11. Jayla, Shayla, Braylon, Kayla. Kadarian. Layla, Marcaden, Saria. 5 girls and 3 boys. The youngest, 3. The oldest, 11. 7 of them were Elkin's own children. The 8th, young Braylon, was a cousin. 8 children who went to sleep on April 18th and never woke up. Before we continue, I need to ask you to do one thing right now. If this story is affecting you the way it's affecting me, if hearing those names, those ages, hit you somewhere deep, please share this video. Not for the algorithm, not for the numbers, but because these children deserve to be remembered by more than just the people who happen to find this video tonight. Share it to your story. Share it in a group chat. Send it to someone you think needs to sit with this story today. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We cover stories like this because they matter. Because real journalism, the kind that doesn't look away, is what keeps communities informed and keeps pressure on the systems that are supposed to protect us. All right, let's keep going. The question that always follows a tragedy like this is the one that is hardest to answer. Who was this person? How does someone become capable of this? We want answers. We want there to be a clear, logical explanation, something that makes sense of the senseless. And the truth is, sometimes those answers come. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes the picture that emerges is incomplete, complicated, and deeply uncomfortable. Here is what we know about Shamar Elkins. He was 31 years old at the time of the shooting. He had served in the Louisiana Army National Guard, a fact that is relevant not because military service produces violence, but because it speaks to a man who at some point in his life made a commitment to something larger than himself, who went through training, who took on responsibility. He was also a man with a criminal record. Records indicate that Elkins had previously pleaded guilty to a weapons charge back in 2019. That charge, a federal felony, would have, under federal law, prohibited him from legally possessing a firearm. The details of how he obtained the weapon used in the April 19th attack are part of the ongoing investigation. And this brings us to one of the most painful recurring themes in stories like this one: the gap between what the law says and what actually happens. Elkins was prohibited from owning a gun. And yet, when he walked into those homes in the early hours of Sunday morning, he was armed. Shreveport Police Chief Wayne Smith addressed the media in the hours after the tragedy. His words were measured but heavy. He called this incident one of the most challenging his department had ever faced, and described April 19th as, in his words, one of the worst days that could have ever happened here in Shreveport. That statement from a veteran law enforcement officer, someone who has seen the worst of what people can do to each other, tells you everything you need to know about the gravity of what unfolded in that neighborhood. Authorities have classified this as a domestic violence incident. The investigation into the precise motive, what led Elkins to this moment, what was happening in the hours and days before the attack, is ongoing. Investigators are piecing together the timeline, the relationships, the history, and the sequence of decisions that led to 8 children losing their lives. What we know for certain is this: 2 homes, 2 women shot and seriously injured, 8 children killed, and one 13-year-old boy who survived because he made a desperate leap from a rooftop in the dark. By Sunday evening, just hours after the shooting, the neighborhood had transformed. The police tape was still there. The investigators were still working. But something else was happening too. People came together. Neighbors who had known these children, who had watched them play in the yard, wave from the porch, run through the sprinklers on a hot summer day, gathered to grieve. Candles were lit. If flowers were placed, names were written on posters and held up toward the sky. One neighbor, who lives across the street from one of the homes, spoke to reporters at the vigil. He described the children as playful and full of life, always outside, always laughing, always moving. He said that just the previous evening, he had waved at Elkins on the porch while the kids played outside. He saw nothing that alarmed him. There was no visible sign of what was coming. That detail, that devastating normalcy of the night before, is one of the hardest parts of this story to sit with, because it speaks to something we don't like to acknowledge. That sometimes, the people who commit the worst acts of violence are the same people who seemed fine yesterday. Domestic violence does not always announce itself loudly. It does not always come with visible warning signs that neighbors can see from across the street. And that is precisely what makes it so dangerous, and why the support systems, the intervention programs, and the resources available to families in crisis matter so much. The Shreveport community is grieving tonight, but grief, in communities like this one, is not passive. It is loud. It is communal. It is the act of refusing to let children be forgotten. Jayla, Shayla, Braylon, Kayla, Kadarian, Layla, Markaden, and Saraya. Their names were spoken at that vigil, over and over again, by people who loved them and by people who simply refused to let them disappear into a news cycle. We need to talk about context here because this story does not exist in a vacuum. The Shreveport shooting has been described by some analysts as the deadliest mass shooting in the United States in more than 2 years, and specifically, one of the deadliest domestic violence-related mass killings in modern American history. Domestic violence and mass shootings are more connected than many people realize. Research from organizations that study gun violence consistently shows that a significant percentage of mass shootings in the United States involve domestic violence, either as the primary motive or as part of the shooter's history. The home, for many victims, is not a safe space. It is the most dangerous place they will ever be. For children in particular, the statistics are heartbreaking. Children are disproportionately represented among domestic violence homicide victims in cases where an intimate partner or family member is the perpetrator. The Shreveport case, 8 children dead, 2 women critically injured, 1 teenage boy's miraculous survival, is an extreme manifestation of a crisis that plays out in homes across America every single day, at a scale that rarely makes national headlines. This is not about politics. This is not about taking sides on any issue. This is about acknowledging that 8 children are gone, and asking the hard question, what do we do about it? That question doesn't have a simple answer, but it starts with awareness, with communities being willing to speak up when something doesn't feel right, with resources being available and accessible to families in crisis, with systems that take domestic violence threats seriously before they become domestic violence tragedies. 8 children should not have had to die to bring that conversation to the forefront. But they did, and so we have that conversation now, in their honor and in their memory. I want to close this video the same way I started it, not with data, not with analysis, but with the human truth at the center of this story. 8 children. Jayla was 3 years old. Shayla was 5. Braylon was 5. Kayla was 6. Kadarian was 6. Layla was 7. Markaden was 10. And Soraya, the oldest, was 11 years old. They are gone, and nothing, no investigation, no policy debate, no vigil, no YouTube video, brings them back. What we can do is remember them. What we can do is make sure that their names are not swallowed up by the next news cycle, that they do not become just another statistic in a country that has grown painfully accustomed to these stories. Tonight, 8 families are shattered. A community is in mourning. And somewhere in Shreveport, a 13-year-old boy who jumped from a roof to survive is living with something no child should ever have to carry. We see him. We see all of them. And we will not look away. If you've made it to the end of this video, thank you. Genuinely. Sitting with a story this heavy takes something out of you, and I don't take it lightly that you stayed. Here's what I'm asking you to do before you leave. Number 1, share this video. Post it, send it, put it on your story. These children deserve to be remembered beyond one news cycle. And every share keeps their names alive a little longer. Number 2, if you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence or is in a dangerous home situation, please reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-79-97233. It is free. It is confidential, and it is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You are not alone, and there are people who want to help. And finally, subscribe to this channel if you believe in journalism that doesn't look away. We cover the stories that matter, the ones that are hard, the ones that deserve more than a 60-second segment. Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Rest easy, Jayla, Shayla, Braylon, Kayla, Kadarian, Layla, Markaden, and Soraya. You were seen, you were loved, and you will not be forgotten.